Yeah, it's nothing crazy. I mean, there isn't really a hard, finite description of what it is. I think at this point it's kind of morphing, kind of changing into a bunch of different little things, I think. I
Okay.
mean, I know that sounds so vague and you're like, what does that mean? I think I think that this podcast thing is like it's more of a journey of me just trying to become a better person. I think. If I had to like put it into a concrete way of saying things,
Sure.
that's what it would be. I think. We're
That's a good
still
that's a good goal.
Yeah, right, but it still sounds so vague. I don't know. It changes every day. I'm just happy to be sitting here talking to people like you. I mean, how cool is this? How many other opportunities would you have to sit down and get to really talk to someone in this fashion? And I mean, I'm sure you can
Yeah, and I
appreciate
know
that
like
because you're in
someone
studio.
yeah, and someone like that you just met too. Like
Yeah,
this is a
we don't know each other at all.
yeah,
And here we
message me
are.
on Facebook
Yeah, here
and
we
then
are
we're
in this
like
garage,
yeah.
sitting down, about to have a talk. Like
Yeah.
how crazy is that? That's the world we live in now. That
Mhm.
anybody can do that. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's really cool and I think podcasting is one of those mediums that you have, you have that
Ability almost.
authenticity in a way
Yes.
and like freedom because it's still like a largely independent medium. As opposed to TV and movies and some music or a lot of music, although there's a lot of indie music going on right now. That's kind of, revolutionizing the way it's been working. But yeah, it's a cool thing that podcasts get that.
Yeah. Has that been something cool to see from your perspective where you are not only a musician but you're a sound engineer too to kind of have that realm of the gatekeeping ideology kind of bypassed now because anybody can record and just put it online. I mean, you've got YouTube, Spotify, you can just upload whatever you want whenever you want.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's both wonderful. It's okay, yeah. It's wonderful and like I started my like recording producing process as like when I was in high school on my mom's laptop recording on like GarageBand.
Mhm.
Um and that was you want to pause for a sec?
No, you can keep going.
Okay,
I
okay.
got so excited. This is the second time now I've done this. I've just gotten so excited. We're like, let's just fucking roll.
Yeah, video.
All the different components. There's always something. But continue.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like I started this process of recording and producing myself, on GarageBand on my mom's laptop with like just like the built-in internal mic, just like trying to make
Which
myself
always sounds great. I mean,
oh
top,
yeah,
always
trying to
quality.
make myself sound as good as possible, which hopefully those recordings never fully see the light of day at this point because they're not up to my current standards. But like it's that accessibility thing we're talking about, and that it was so cool for any sort of creative person to have that accessibility and get their ideas down, and it's only become easier from there. Like the quality for the price has only gotten easier.
Yeah, the barrier of entry almost it's just so low. I mean, you can buy a $5 mic off Amazon and it's going to sound way better than that internal mic and then
Yeah.
you're rolling.
Yeah, you don't need much to start.
Yeah. Did you see that coming? Thinking back to that kid recording on GarageBand, did you think that there would be a time like that?
No, not at all. Like I went to college and I went to college for recording and music, but it came time to apply for colleges and I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was like no clue what my like purpose to going towards a job was going to be, if that makes sense in terms of education. But I was like, I'm passionate about this music, this like recording thing. Let's just run with that for a little bit. Like go to like, and I went to like a liberal arts college rather than like a trade school because I wanted to explore. But yeah, I ended up, applying. I went to Bennington College in Vermont, and they had like a really good music program, recording program, and kind of gave me like a breadth of knowledge. And I was fortunate that when I went there, I just ended up loving it more and more. Because it very easily could have been me going there and be like, oh wait, recording other people. No, I just want to do it for myself or whatever. So yeah, I was lucky that my like somewhat impromptu or like not thought out as like a 16, 17-year-old idea paid off,
Yeah,
you know?
because it
And then I
so
just
easily could
continued.
have gone the other way.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And like, and even at a later point too, like I could have gone all the way through a 4-year education and several internships at studios and never gotten a job. Like I became, yeah, my story, like I currently work at like Bongo Boy Studio in McKinleyville, and I just happened to, my dad was cleaning, I was at college. My dad was back in Humboldt, like cleaning a house with a neighbor of his, and his neighbor happened to mention that the studio was looking, in McKinleyville, was looking for someone to come help, basically. Um, and I I reached out to Jimmy and Susie, the owners, and they were super nice and wonderful. And it just happened to be the perfect timing that Jimmy had been engineering and built up this like business and this studio, and wanted to scale back. And it's hard to describe how rare that is in like, if you haven't ever been like looking for like jobs as recording engineers. I'm doing air quotes right now for those not watching video, but like if you ever look for jobs, they don't exist. You mostly will create your own job when it comes to recording. Create your own space, create your own job, kind of like you have here. And it's but I was incredibly like lucky, and the timing was just perfect for me to kind of come in, talk to Jimmy and Susie. Jimmy said, I want to not engineer anymore. Do you want to take over as chief engineer? And yeah, the timing was incredible and perfect for that.
Is it hard to find a job just because the market's saturated with sound engineers?
Yeah, I mean, I think yeah, I guess the point of the air quotes around job is that like it's mostly it's create your own job type situation where most of the time, if you want to engineer, you're going to create a space for yourself, and you're going to bring in people that think what you do is really cool, and but when you're done with that space, most studio owners don't bring someone else in to continue working in that space. um I don't know, it's kind of hard. I guess it's kind of hard to describe, but it's not there aren't very many like big studios that have multiple engineers work there, and even if it is, it's often not like a normal job application process.
Mm-hmm.
You can go and you can email and like send a resume, but like mostly they're going to find you through connections, or like a band that has you as their engineer is going to bring you into the studio, and have you work with them, and then the people who are already working in the studio will see that you're good and like bring you into the fold that way. It's just kind of a different process of finding work.
It's almost like you need experience. Like your portfolio is going to kind of speak for itself in a
Yeah,
way,
you've got to get a portfolio,
which is the hard part. That's what you
which
got
you
to get
can't do
first.
until you have work doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did you know? So what did you start recording back in your GarageBand days? Was that just you like playing instruments and singing? Okay.
Yeah. I did a lot of different things. My first instrument that I ever played was fiddle and violin, and I started when I was like 6 or so. And I did that for a number of years. And so I did some of that. I picked up guitar acoustic guitar when I got to high school, and that was mainly like guitar and songwriting was what I was doing my main exploration in high school, because that was new to me and it was exciting. And um, I didn't know that you could accompany yourself on violin at the time and sing at the same time. Like since then, I've found great musicians and great examples of what that looks like. That people do, amazing accompaniment and sing. I wish I had kind of followed up on that a little bit further, but I guess if I had, I may not have picked up guitar. So yeah, it's a lot of songwriting, a lot of exploring like what's possible with MIDI, and MIDI being like digital instruments and tech the tech part of building tracks in GarageBand. There's a lot of that.
That's cool. Yeah, I think. I mean, I can only have, a ton of appreciation for what you do because I guess like, I edit this and that
Yeah.
blows my mind because it's so labor intensive, and to do what you have to do where you're not just editing but you're mixing down all these different tracks and you're adding all these different components in. I mean, I
Yeah.
get tired just thinking about it.
Yeah, yeah, it can be very labor intensive for sure. And like I've definitely done some, like since working at Bongo Boy, I've done a lot of things. Basically, we're an open door studio, and so you get a lot of variety in it. Um, and so that can be anything from like ADR for TV shows, or I've edited podcasts or interviews before, and I've done a lot of that type of thing. And it's so like sound design for films and things like that that have both music, sound design, and editing of like vocal voiceover type content. It can be very labor intensive for sure. Um, and I like it. I think I'm one of the weirdos that enjoys it for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for many people, that's not their favorite part.
Yeah.
But taking something that is good and making it great through the power of editing and magic is, one of my joys in it, I think.
That's a great perspective. I never really thought about it like that. You kind
Yeah.
of like have all the building blocks at your disposal and you're creating something from that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. Thanks.
Do you like do you like engineering your own stuff more or working for other people?
I mean, I very much enjoy doing my own things for sure. But yeah, no, I really enjoy producing other people as well. Like I with my own music, I have a lot of different things that I do. Because I'm a producer as well as a songwriter, I get to like do little forays into different genres that you don't usually hear one artist do. I can go from like very, very folky Celtic type stuff to like almost pop hip hop, but not like rapping hip hop, but vocal hip hop, and to like swing music, and so I really enjoy that exploratory nature of it, right? Um, but but yeah, I take great joy in like if I find like a songwriter that I love their songs, and if they, either they don't know how to produce and arrange their own music, or they have a vision that they don't have the resources to do. I love doing that. I love taking someone's song and adding my creative elements of whatever it is, getting the very best out of them, like bringing in the studio, doing, a vocal take a lot of times, many times in a row, and taking the best parts of it and kind of coaching someone a little bit without being overbearing on how to get the very best out of their songs, and kind of like the problem solving aspect of arranging music. I love that.
So when you have somebody in studio and they're recording, are you taking bits and pieces from each, like say they come in and they do 10 recordings of the same song, are you taking bits and pieces from each of those
Mm.
and turning it into one, or you just try to get one that sounds good all the way through?
Yeah, depends on the artist,
Okay.
right? Usually what we'll try and do a bunch of takes, and then I'll pick one that has like the magic, right? There's usually, a take when you do it that's the one that has the emotion. That's the one that just everything kind of
You can
clicked
feel
mostly
it.
at the same time.
Yeah.
It makes you feel it, and you're like, this is what the song can be. And then, so that's kind of what the coaching performance part of it is, right? Is trying to get that take out of someone, and it's almost like a little bit psychological as you're like, I'll sit there and I'll ask people like, what is this song about? And like partially because I want to know, right? But also partially so that they can tell me and get in that emotional space. And then I'd be like, okay, go record. And they kind of go through the process of recording it. And that can sometimes like pull out that magical take. So I'll go through and I'll find that magic take. And then I'll put like my critiquing hat on and listen through. And if there's anything that could be better, like if there's any problem spots in that magic take, kind of finding those from other takes and fixing it up a little bit, to make it, the best version of that it can be of its own, the best version it can be. Yeah.
It's got to be nice being a musician as well, because you can you see it from both sides, right? You're not just the person behind the board, you're also the person that's been in the studio, and you're like, okay, well, this works for me, so maybe this will work for them, and I can kind of help edge them to where they could be and reach that potential for it.
Yeah. Definitely it is. It was funny. I had the experience. We had an internship, an intern a little bit, like a year ago at Bongo Boy. And, I was starting to work on my own solo music again, because I kind of put that on the back burner for a while as I was producing like a lot of really cool artists, and that was kind of my focus. And then COVID hit and quarantine hit, and we were shut down for a couple months, in terms of, we weren't bringing anyone in. And so I was like, okay, well, I have a studio to myself. I have a bunch of creative energy and time. I'm going to, kind of focus on my own solo music career. And we had this intern that was with us at the time. And for the first time, I asked him he wanted to engineer my stuff that I was working on. Basically, like he was going to be sitting at the board. I was going to be just behind the mic. And usually, it's been my experience that I'm doing both at the same time. It was a very different experience to be just the artist. And I was doing a little bit of over the shoulder engineering for sure, but it was a very different experience to do that. And it was really interesting for me to learn what that's like too. Because as you're saying, I have that experience, but at the same time, I hadn't really had that experience beforehand, because I'd always been the engineer for myself. I'd never been just in the space of an artist.
Mm-hmm. And it's got to be weird where you know how to engineer, having somebody else engineer your work for you. That's got to be just like a weird feeling of, oh, I've always done my own stuff. Okay, let's see where this goes.
Yeah. A little bit of letting go control.
Yes. Which is hard sometimes.
Super hard, particularly when you're used to it, or it's your creative baby. But that's part of a growing process as an artist too. It's really good for me to learn how to do, and really good for me to appreciate what it takes for other people to do that. Because I definitely have people that will come in and work with me, and they are very open to suggestions and changes and stuff. And I have people that aren't
yeah.
Right. And it's my job to still try and help them be the best version of they can, be the best artists they possibly can, but also, respect their feelings and their vision for their art. And help me understand that a little bit better.
So walk me through the process, because I have no idea what goes on in a recording. This is as close as I've come to a recording studio, and this is a garage.
Yeah.
So if you have a band come in, is everybody in the booth at the same time playing instruments and singing and doing everything at the same time? Or is it drummer comes in, guitarist comes in, vocalist comes in, and you kind of separate it out?
Depends on the band.
Yeah, okay. I was thinking it was going to go there.
Yeah, I think
is one way harder than the other?
I pride myself on versatility for sure. So I have a lot of different processes, and I tailor them towards the artist. There are definitely some studios that have the way they like to do things. But yeah, I'll have my band, the Gatehouse, or a folk progressive band. We mostly record separately. We're a very songwriter based band. So I'll come in and record my guitar and vocal track, and that'll be the basic track that everyone else comes and adds their part to. You can have bands like Diggin' Dirt. It's local funk band, super great. And they did kind of a hybrid version where they recorded their they had everyone in at the same time, right? They had drums, bass, two guitars, and then I had their singer in like a separate room, kind of singing what we call like a scratch vocal. So all the bass, drums, and guitars are all together live, getting that like feel and that magic that we're talking about, right? Trying to get that best version. And then the singer has the freedom to come and redo their vocal and be a little bit more nitpicky about it if they want. And so that's kind of like when it comes to bands, like my favorite hybrid version of getting like the rhythm track down all together, so you have that feel, but also being able to have the singer be able to redo their stuff and fix things, because I don't know, modern ears are past the 90s, our ears have been trained by what we've been hearing to seek out like a perfect vocal, which is near impossible to get for real, if that makes sense. Like between the pitch shifting you can do and the effects and changing everything, the modern listener's ear is expecting like perfection with every bit. And if you go listen to like old Beatles records and anything rock and roll, for sure, like there's pitchiness all over the place. There's imperfections. There's words that you miss because they're low or quiet. But they have that magic thing to them, and because they were from before the current era, our ears don't expect them to be perfect. It's kind of a strange dichotomy or contrast.
That's interesting. I never thought about that.
Yeah.
Is that because of like, introductions of technologies like autotune, that now we just kind of expect the song just to be perfect all the way through?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's kind of, I never thought about that. I mean, I love old vinyl. Like that's my favorite thing in the world. And I know that's so cliche to say now because everybody says that, but it just has a different sound. And I wonder if that's part of the reason why. It's just more,
yeah, I think that there's
nuanced in a way.
Yeah, it has imperfections, which are like the beauty of most
Everything.
musical things.
Yeah.
Yeah, most things in general, actually. Yeah, good point. But yeah, like if your friend comes out with a song right now, what you expect to hear in order to call it good is way harsher than you would if you like listen to recording of them on cassette just rocking out 30 years ago or something like that. Like the amount of difference in expectation is amazing.
It's a lot higher.
Yeah.
Does that affect live performances, or artists like on the edge of wanting to do live performances because it's not going to be that, like there's that margin of error in a live performance, I would imagine, where it's
Sure.
not just going to be this super high quality, because you might slip up, or you might play a note a little off or some. I mean, I have no idea, I'm just speaking out of my ass here, but I would imagine things can happen. Things happen here, and it's like, oh shit, like, okay, let's try to figure something out on the fly.
Yeah, for sure. It's live performance is, I definitely think it's been affected like that, particularly if you've done a lot of recording, or if you've been in that environment where you're seeking perfection.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I should say, like, when I say perfection, like there's still imperfections in perfection, but you're like curating the imperfections in a certain way if you get really intense about it. But in live performance, it's kind of an exercise in being zen about it, and like if there's any mistake, just like letting it go. And I think audiences have less. I don't know. I think their ear at live performances is not quite as like critical.
It's a little more forgiving.
Yeah, I think it's more forgiving, and you can't like listen back. That's the other thing. It's like you can't listen back.
Yeah.
Once it's passed to see if, oh wait, was that a mistake? Was that something like that?
And there's something magnetic about being in the presence of a live show like that, where like you're feeding off the energy of the crowd, you're
Yeah.
feeding off the energy of the artist on stage. Like it's I don't know, it's just a different feeling than when you're like at home with your headphones on listening to your song. Not that there's
Yeah,
like in a
absolutely.
bad way, it's just like I feel like you get more connected to the song when it's live like that. So it makes sense that people would be like, okay, like we know what this is. This isn't a recorded track. This is the person actually doing what they came here to do.
Yeah, that energy or that like interplay between the audience and the stage, that's like everyone who loves live music, that's what what I'm saying, musicians who love live music, that's what they talk about. Like that's the thing that's irreplaceable.
Hmm.
Um, and that's the beauty in it. Um, and recording will never replace that. It'll never get that back. Particularly like in the last year and a half, we've had this exercise in like, doing live streams as replacement for in-person shows, and you've had only starting to come back and do live music again, and it's been such like between all my musician friends and community in Humboldt, I know we've been talking a lot about how much it's missed, that kind of energy of a live show.
Do you play live here locally? Because I know I've seen a couple of your live shows online, the recorded
Yeah.
ones. Do you do anything here locally as well?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it's been hard over the past year with everything,
Not
but
much over the last year and a half.
yeah.
Yeah. I've before COVID hit, I was playing kind of monthly solo shows at Chapala Cafe in Eureka and Arts and Drafts, which shut down during the pandemic. Unfortunately, I'm very sad that they're gone. But mostly when I play live, I'm playing with, I mentioned my Celtic folk, progressive folk quartet, whatever we want to call ourselves, the Gatehouse Well. And we've played live quite a bit. Had like some monthly residencies going on, and also playing at Humboldt Folklife Festival and Oyster Festival, and like outdoor events around
Yeah.
here.
That's gotta be such a cool feeling, getting up in front of an audience like that
Yeah,
and just doing what you're passionate about.
yeah. Do you play music, by the way?
I
I didn't ask
I
your
don't.
background in
No,
this.
I used to. I grew up playing the piano and I played the saxophone for a little bit and then the guitar. But as I got older, I kind of just other things started to consume me and those kind of fell on the back burner.
What started to consume you?
I
What are
got
your passions transfer into?
um sports. I got really big into sports. I was going from basketball to baseball to soccer, and it was just a cycle of okay, this is all I have time for. And then I fell out of that and I started doing like mixed martial arts and I got really into that for a brief period of time. I like to bounce around. I think that's the MO of my life is finding something that not that grounds me, but I like to try out different passions. I feel like life is so short that like
Mm,
I don't want to get stuck in one thing or I want to try different things out to see if I really do like it because there's so much out there to do. Like the idea
yeah,
of just doing one thing for the rest of your life, I think scares me. And so whenever I get too connected, I'm like, okay, it's on to the next thing. What can we do next?
yeah,
That's been my prerogative, I think, looking back.
yeah.
Except with this, I think this is something that I'll stay tied to a little
Stick
bit
with.
longer. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think like even if the medium still stays the same, you so far have given yourself a lot of like breadth in terms of topics,
Yeah.
and as long as you're okay talking to people, you can still dive into different passions in the context of different conversations, kind of a thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it gives you a lot of variety in there.
Yeah, and I mean everything that happens is a passion, right? Like I'm passionate about music and I'm sitting here talking to you and like that's I'm sitting over here smiling because it's so cool and the idea of just that this is happening is like
Mm,
I think people take moments like that for granted sometimes as you forget like we are on this crazy ride and look at where we are right now.
yeah,
And again, we don't know each other. Like I don't know 90% of the people that come on this thing and I always leave having a great time and I'm like that that is cool. Like it's a release and I'm sure you feel the same way in your music. Like when you do it, it's cathartic in a weird way. Like you feel like a piece of you is not leaving your body, but like you're experiencing a different side of yourself in a way, I guess. If
Yeah,
that makes sense.
yeah, for sure. It can be, um, I keep saying magical, but like it can
It
be a
can be.
magical
Yeah.
experience of particularly when I'm writing. Did you see the movie? I think it's Disney, I think, or maybe Pixar. It's called Soul.
I haven't seen it. I've heard it's pretty
Okay,
good.
I won't be too specific in terms of how it relates, but they talk about how artists can go into this creative space. Musicians, well, all artists, but in this movie, the main character is a musician. Is talking about going into like a creative space, and when you're in that space, you're in it like a different plane of existence, kind of. And it's I wonder. I know exactly what they mean. Like if I'm writing and I'm super in it, or even if I'm like recording or I'm arranging or finding the right way to put together music or coming with creative ideas, I'm in this like different creative space. And it's very hard for me to like jump out of it immediately. Um it's like I'm stuck in a very good way, in a very beautiful way. So yeah, kind of an out of body experience in that sense.
Yeah. Do you feel like it's hard to get into that space?
Can be, yeah. It's something that's hard to force.
Yes. It almost has to
It's
come
not hard
naturally.
to get into it if I'm there, if that makes sense. Like
Mm-hmm.
if it comes on of its own accord, then it's not hard at all. Um, but I've been like, I am hired to be creative a lot of the time, right? And so there's a lot of times um, where I'm not necessarily in that full version of that space. I'm, seeking it or looking for that like spark that makes it happen. And yeah. And so, particularly I've done like co-songwriting sessions. There's a local label, Mercury Sky Records, that has, supports local songwriters, and they've hired me to do some co-writing sessions. And, I've had some of those that you know, was with the right person and we found the right spark and we're in that space together, which is super, super cool to be not just in it yourself, but in it with someone else. And then there were times that it wasn't quite working and we still came away with a song, but it didn't have that like creative passion to it to the same extent. Um, it's so like unquantifiable in a
Mm-hmm.
way. And as a professional, you do your best to quantify it, but there's some things that are out of your control too.
Yeah. Some things you can't put into words.
Yeah.
Is it I would imagine it's almost harder trying to write a song with someone else. Because what if you're on one wavelength and you're like, okay, like this part needs to be passionate and like there's depth and soul here, and they're like, no, but like it should be more uplifting and like happy, and you're like, no, but it needs to have this feeling behind it. I know there's something there. Or am I just spitballing here?
No, it's very true. Um, yeah, writing with other people, like I said, it's like it can make the high, if it's a high, it makes the highs higher, but if it's a low, then it's makes everything so much harder.
Yeah.
Like it's either a good fit or it's not a good fit, or it's like usually it's sometimes a good fit, but on other days not a good fit, and it's yeah, also unquantifiable, that kind of like chemistry of writing with someone.
You almost have to be connected to them in a way. Or be
Yeah,
able to like relate emotionally in some sense. To be
yeah,
able to like just
yeah. Whenever I start a songwriting session, I will usually start with like just basic like human connection,
mm-hmm.
particularly if I don't know them super well. Um, but even if I do, I'll be like, "How you doing today? What's on your mind recently?" Like start from that place,
Mm-hmm.
and then build. Find something in what they say, and build that that I relate to emotionally, and that I can tell that they're feeling a connection to remotely, emotionally, and then build off of that for a song, or use it as a jumping point, kind of a thing.
Now, when you're creating a song, are you starting with the lyrics? Are you starting with kind of an instrument or a little riff and thinking, oh, like that could be something?
Yeah. Um, both. Yeah. Yeah, no, I have songs that I start with a spark. I call it a spark. Like, and that being said, anything can be a spark, whether it's, I'm messing around on guitar and I find like a little lick or something cool on there. Um, and I make a little voice memo on my phone to save for the future or follow it up in the moment if I can, if I have the time. But like, that's a spark. Um, I've woken up in the middle of the night with a melody running through my head and be like, mumble into my phone. That's not one that I would save. That melody I just sung there, that's not a good one. Let's not keep
That's
that.
not
That's not
representative.
representative of the amazingness of my night recordings. But, but finding a melody that can be a spark. But I also have, a document, like a Google document that I just put cool phrases down when I hear when I, going throughout my day and someone says something interesting that I'm like, that sounds, I like that. Or if I'm reading or anything like that. So I don't have a particular like lyrics always. I'm not more a lyricist than a composer or more a composer than a lyricist. I think I chameleon a little bit and try different things. Um,
Which is probably better that way because then you're not grounded to, okay, this is how I start my process. I got to go sit at my desk. I got to start humming something. Like you can just pull it whenever it hits you,
yeah,
which is probably how you get some of your best work, I would imagine.
yeah, yeah, definitely. It's yes, what you said. Sorry.
No. I got to ask though, are you, I mean, what's going through your head when you get up on stage for a live show? Are you calm, cool, and collected? Are you freaking out a little bit? Are you stressing? What's happening?
Yeah, I think I've played enough live that I'm not super nervous, or at least the threshold for nervous is higher.
Okay.
Like if I'm playing at, um, a little coffee shop or something with like, if I'm playing background music for something, I'm not particularly nervous anymore. I mean, I still have like the desire to do my best kind of a thing, but it doesn't necessarily come with a nervous question if I can, if that makes sense. Um, but yeah, when I'm like main staging Folklife Festival or something like that, and there's hundreds upon hundreds of people watching and it's being recorded, then I'm like, oh, let's little bit of butterflies
Yeah.
for sure. Um, Thankfully, I have mostly I'm playing with people if I'm playing a show that big, and it's nice to be able to count on band members who are amazing to do. If one person is at 80% of the day, the other people can take that up and carry that a little bit more, put enough energy to bring that collectively up to 100% kind of a thing.
Yeah, as opposed to it just being you on stage, where you
Yeah.
have the full weight of everything.
Yeah. If it's you alone, then you are responsible for both yourself and the crowd, which is definitely the harder part.
Yeah.
Being responsible for the energy of the crowd and trying to not manipulate. That sounds like a bad way, but trying to
Almost
I can't
convey,
think of
like
the right
convey
word,
the
but yeah.
emotions of your song. Like you're not trying to.
Yeah,
I get what you're saying.
yeah,
Not manipulate them,
not
but
like manipulating their energy, but not badly
yeah,
manipulating, but like
that word's become almost yeah,
molding their energy, or like working with their energy, or trying to bring it up, or down, or into like an honest, intimate moment with you, or like a super rocking moment with you, and trying to take a crowd with you can be hard.
How did you find your band?
Yeah, good question. I've known there's a fiddle player in the band. His name's Evan Morden. I've known him since we're babies. Like I grew up in Humboldt. He was also Humboldt raised, and he Yeah, he picked up violin when he was like 2 or 3 or something, about the same time I did. He was like a few years younger than me, and but he kept with it, and he's real good. So when I got back from college, I started playing with him a little bit, and we met our other songwriter in the band, Michael David, who people might know from playing around. He does a lot of solo gigging, and he's the premier wedding acoustic guitar singer player in the area, and he's an excellent musician as well. Met him through like a mutual friend. I've been part of like the swing dance community here for years upon years. This
I
is
didn't know
another
that
thing
was
we
a
can talk
thing.
about. Just a whole nother area. But yeah, his wife swing dancing, and I met him through her and found out that he's amazing and convinced him to come play a show with us. And then yeah, we played for a while as the Gatehouse Wall with the three of us, and brought in our bass player a year or two in. Our bass player actually came and played on our first album as like a guest, and then we're like, oh, it sounds so good, we got to keep him. And that's Nate Zwordling, and yeah, just a really excellent group of musicians that I'm
Yeah, and it sounds
real
like it.
lucky to play with.
Yeah, and it sounds like it came really from an organic place. Like you guys all just kind of found each other.
Yeah, it was very much like we want, and it's still like, and it's still I think our motto of like, we want to play music together. That is the primary thing, as opposed to like, we want to play gigs to make money. We want to have the most fans. Like, it's always fun to have fans listen to your music, but like, we practice because we practice because we honestly enjoy the process of creating music together. And when we get to share it, that's wonderful. But we're not practicing. We don't practice with like the idea of being like, we need to be perfect for a particular show so that we can, go to the next thing and build off of that in a certain way. I don't know if I'm explaining this very well, but like, I don't know. It's just kind of I don't know, the way our band works is we're very organically inclined to play music together.
You're in it for the passion of it.
Yeah.
Not to
It's very much a passion
make
project.
$1 million. Yeah.
A passion project by good musicians who like value being tight and like being good. So I say we definitely practice, and we get practice to be better, but like, without that being the entire purpose of it, is because we really just enjoy that process.
Is it hard being a member of a band in the sense that you have all these conflicting ideas and directions? Because you always hear about these great breakup bands where one person wanted to go in this direction, the other person wanted to go over here, and then they fall apart.
Yeah.
Is it hard balancing that in a group? Or where you guys are so tight, it's just like
It can be.
you can flow.
Yeah, sure. It definitely can be. I think we all came into it with the idea that like, I don't know, or just it naturally formed in a certain way that whoever's song that we're playing, whether it's either one that I wrote, one that Michael wrote, or one that we do like fiddle tunes, and so our fiddle player is like the top, has like the ending say on what their vision for that song is. And so yeah, I think that's been our way to decide, I guess, if there are differences of opinions on how to follow something. But it hasn't happened that often. Like, I think we like each other's ideas for the most part. And at the same time, like, we don't have like a whole lot of like pride invested if we suggest an idea. I mean, sometimes for sure, but like, there's, someone suggests an idea, they think it's a good idea, but if someone doesn't, if the owner of that song or the driving force behind that song is not as inclined for it. It's not going to be like, oh, well, you hate my idea and think I'm a terrible musician, so I'm going to like quit the band kind of a thing, which would be an extreme example. But
Yes.
like, but yeah, there's definitely musicians that have that. I get that in the studio a lot. If you bring in like, I don't know about a lot, but like, have to deal with that as a producer a lot. If you have, the band's recorded their thing and the singer recorded their thing, and now we're doing like lead guitar kind of fills, and the lead guitarist is just like playing all over the song and they're sounding super cool, and the singer or the songwriter for the song is like, that doesn't really fit the song, or can we like dial it back a bit? And then the lead guitarist is like,
You guys are
throw up their
stifling my
hands.
creativity.
Yeah, throw up their hands, be like, if you don't want something sick for your song, then
Find another guitarist.
find another guitarist. I haven't had anyone quite that dramatic, but I've, there can be that energy sometimes, for sure. So yeah, we don't have that a lot in the Gatehouse.
Luckily.
For sure. Luckily, we don't have that a lot. But it's usually just a communication thing.
Mm-hmm.
There's a wonderful story about like a recording studio where they had basically a band that was all yelling at the engineer to turn their parts up. And so the recording engineer gave each of them like their faders on the board that control the volume of each other's parts. So he gave each of them a different person's part, if that makes sense. So if he gave the vocalist the lead guitar fader, and gave the lead guitar the drum fader, and told them to mix the song. And by the end of the song, everything was turned down to 0. Everyone kept turning each other's parts down until there was nothing left of the song.
Oh God.
And so it's like a wonderful illustration of, you are the band and it's important what you're saying, but like there's a reason you have a mixing engineer and a recording engineer or a producer to find the best parts of all of you and make sure that it sounds good as a whole, not just, individual parts standing out in that. So that's a fun hat to play sometimes when people's pride is involved, but it's good.
Now, is it hard when because like for you, where you went to school for that, are they teaching you just how to manipulate everything? Are they kind of teaching you how to feel? Because I would imagine some of it, yes, is very technical, trying to find that balance, especially with audio levels. But then, I mean, some of it has to come from somewhere inside of you, right? To like find that magic inside of it and be like, okay, this is how it should be. Like, this is the best vocal combination compared to, whatever background music is going on. Like, this is where it needs to be. No, we should tweak it just a little bit more, but this is perfect right here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, some of that has to come from, I don't know if it's just like instinct or practice over, the breadth of doing it. But I would imagine some of that they can't teach you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, school tends to be very tech focused. And I was lucky to have teachers that like prioritized creativity as well. But that element of like someone's ear can be developed. Like, it's a skill that can be developed. But also I think it's, I consider it a gift to myself. Like, I consider my ears to be, of all the things that I know, like my ears and my sense of musicality to be like my greatest asset, if you will. And this is not it. I'm sorry, I'm not saying this very well. You've got me thinking about this for sure. Yes, school tends to be very tech focused, and it took me a while to develop.
Outside of that.
To develop what I consider to also be a little bit of an innate ability. And I've had, some internships watching other like really great producers and engineers around the country kind of do that and go through that process. And that's super helpful for sure. I mean, nowadays there's like YouTube tutorials for everything. So
everything's online.
You can do the
now.
same thing without at home if you really want, or a similar thing at least, and develop that in yourself. but also you just got to go through the process enough. Uh, so.
Yeah, part of it's the experience for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think there's just something about, like you said, having that ear for it. Where, I mean,
Yeah.
I had on Kevin Lemilio, and he's a photographer, and his pictures are incredible. And I'm sitting there looking at him, and I'm like, I couldn't, like, you could give me a camera, and I could sit outside for 12 hours, and I'm not going to capture anything that comes close to that, And
Yeah.
some people, especially if you're passionate about it, you can almost tune yourself to it, to a higher frequency of what you're doing that someone who's not that into it or doesn't have that same drive is going to miss. Like
Yeah.
I could never take some of these pictures. I could never write some of these songs, I think there's something innate inside of people that kind of lends itself more to these pursuits.
Yeah. I agree. It's you're talking about like how if you gave you a camera and you would never find a picture. I like to think that you could happen by chance to come across something great, but it would really be by chance. And I
Yeah,
think
there's
that
not going to be a
that
lot of skill at that
yeah,
point.
and I think that part is the part that is a development of skill, right? Is being able to figure out how to more often get to that point of incredible result, if you want to call it that, incredible art. Um, but kind of the innate eye for something or the innate ear for something is um, the part that can't be taught, I think.
Yeah. It's almost like you have this That's a good perspective. It's almost like you have this spark and you're trying to fan it into a fire. And
Mm-hmm.
all you need is that spark, but you gotta tend to it. You gotta blow on it. You gotta give it the air that it needs to grow, and then it can become something really, really powerful.
Yeah.
And it's all about just I mean, I think that just ties back into passions. Like you gotta fan what you love and it'll take you wherever it wants to go.
Yeah.
Man,
Definitely.
I can't let the swing dancing thing out of my head because
Yeah, let's
that
do
is
it.
I
Let's talk
had
about swing
no
dancing.
idea that was a thing here locally. Is this like down in Ferndale or up here in Eureka?
Arcata, baby.
Arcata. Wow, I would not have
Yeah.
guessed Arcata. Okay. How did you
Yeah.
get involved in that?
There was a girl, and
There's always a
there's
girl.
always a girl. Well, okay, yeah. So anyone who wants to go swing dancing Monday nights at Redwood Racks in Arcata, you can go swing dancing at 7 p.m. for the class, 8 p.m. for the social dancing. Um, but yeah, I got into it because my mom made me is the first part. When I was like in 7th grade, I think it was. There's a local instructor of like ballroom dancing in general. His name was Bruce Hart, and he was a really cool man, really great with the community in general. And she said, "This is a life skill you need to have. You need to know like some basic dancing." So she made me go take the class with her. Fortunately, my best friend's mom thought it was a great idea, or two of my best friend's moms. So we had 3 of us, like 7th grade boys, dancing with our moms in the
Oh,
ballroom
good.
dancing class. And I'm sure it was adorable if you were anyone else in the class. And it was
Not so much for you
a little
guys.
bit mortifying for us, but better since our friends were there at least. Um, and yeah, and so I took this class and then like, cha-cha and waltz and did a little bit of swing dancing. And we kind of went, after that, we went to some local dances because we really enjoyed swing. And, we'd go and dance with our moms for the night. And we didn't have any courage to ask anyone else to dance for sure because 7th grade. And, and so we spent like a couple years until we hit high school, going around to local dances, dancing to like bands like Delta Nationals and Magnolia, who were like the dance bands of the time, the big names. And 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 I hit high school, and I had a girl that I had a crush on. Had been going to Monday Night Swing at Redwood Racks in Arcata, and she said, "Oh, Dominic, you should come to this. You like swing dancing, right? You should come to this event." And I was like, "Oh, I don't know if I can." Yes, I will crush it. And so I went to Monday night, and I did get the girl for a little bit, and then the girl left. But I still enjoyed swing dancing, so I kept going to Monday nights.
That
And
is so cool.
yeah, yeah, and I just kept. I've just been very steady about it all the way throughout high school. That was like me and my friend group's social activity.
We go swing
I was
dancing.
go swing dancing on Monday nights. And yeah, it's kind of a great place to develop for me. Like it really, really helped me develop social skills in a way that I don't know if I would have been thrust into other scenarios quite like that. But yeah, it helped really develop my social skills and sense of music for sure, diversity of music. And yeah, it's a really great place to do. And so at some point, I started like teaching a little bit, just because
Oh, whoa.
I'd been there for long enough, and
You had it down.
and I had it down enough. So I'm one of the rotating in teachers. I was one of the rotating in teachers pre-COVID, and I believe that'll come back in a little bit here.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Wow, all thanks to your mom forcing you to go
All
7th
thanks to my
grade.
mom. Absolutely.
Yeah, I would imagine that helped with your confidence a little bit too, right? Just getting out there and trying something that you haven't really done, especially where it's musically inclined, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, feeling like I had like some skill in something already from my mom forcing me, but also, yeah, just kind of, yeah, putting myself in situations that I wouldn't have been in before, developing a skill from the ground up, and it being like we talk about swing dancing as being like graceful silliness in a way, um, as opposed to like as opposed to tango or some other dances in the area, salsa, that they can have like silly elements, but they tend to take themselves very seriously. Swing dancing is like innately a bit silly,
Yeah.
and that's not to say that there isn't like depth to that silliness, or like a whole lot of history for sure, and amazing teachers throughout the ages, and theories, and like all this stuff surrounding it, but like it's innately a bit funny and silly, and that makes it that was something I always connected to, like just being able to go out there and kind of let go of whatever insecurity you came in with and be a bit silly with it, and still want to learn, and get better, but being okay with being silly as you do.
Is it hard to learn?
No.
No, okay.
It takes time to develop to be really good, but I
Hmm.
don't think it's particularly hard to start with.
That's not like starting out with ballroom dancing or is that harder?
I think it's about the same.
Okay.
Um, yeah. Uh, there's how do you want to go into swing dancing? There's a couple different types of swing dancing, so like some of them are definitely harder. There's East Coast swing is like the most accessible type, and I could teach you that in 10 minutes. Like you can do the basics of that pretty quickly. And then you can get into like the oldest form of swing dancing, which is Charleston, and that's a little bit harder. And then you get into something called Lindy Hop, which is definitely the most intense, steepest learning curve for sure, but also has the most creativity, in my opinion, and is my favorite.
I didn't even know there were different types of swing.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. That is so cool. So do you do any other type of dancing or it's primarily swing right now?
I've definitely done I've done a little bit of a lot of other types as I went, but I didn't stick with them the way
Mhm.
that I've stuck with swing for like, whatever it is, like 14 years now or something like that. Like, yeah, they haven't quite spoken to me in the same way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely tried salsa and fusion, blues, bachata, a little bit of hip hop, contact improv if you want to. I mean, it's a dance, but it's a different type of dance, if you will. It's not a partner dance like some of the ones I just named. But yeah,
That's cool. And what a great, bonding experience for you and your mom to be able
yeah,
to share that together, you know?
yeah, yeah. Like I said, I was mortified at the
Oh yeah,
time,
I can imagine
but at the same
the
time, like
fear.
I loved it, and like I said, I went. Me and my best friend would go with our moms to dances, and we'd have this like I'm sure it was, surprising but wonderful for my parents, and obviously wonderful for us as well to be able to spend that time um, with them and do that. And I can always say that my mom got me into swing dancing, um, and it's such a huge part of my life. I mean, in many ways, she got me into music as well. Like she was, both my parents have always been incredibly supportive of my music in general. And even when I like announced at 16 that I'm going to like choose a college based on recording or something, like they were like supportive to the point that I, as an adult now, have a hard time believing that. They were like, yeah, go to like a like small, expensive liberal arts college and study recording, Dominic. That sounds great. So I'm so thankful for both of my parents for being staunchly supportive. For sure.
Do they play any instruments or do any vocals or anything?
My dad, not so much. My mom sings, plays some piano, used to play a little bit of guitar. She hasn't done that in a long time. She's been like musically inclined, but not necessarily like professional musician kind of a thing. My stepdad plays violin, and we had a short-lived family band.
Oh,
When
no
I was
way.
about the same time probably of early high school or slightly before, where we played some fun tunes all together, and there are some videos of that should also
Oh man,
never
they're
see
floating around
the
online
light of day.
somewhere.
Yes, I think on a DVD in
Oh,
our in the armoire cabinet in our house. And so, yeah, if you break into into my mom's house and find that DVD, you can see me as a moody teen singing my heart out.
oh man,
It's
that
weird.
is so cool. That is wow. I mean, that's starting a band with your family. That's cool. I would do that. None of my, I think my dad played a little bit of guitar, but never like had lessons. I think he just strummed it. And my mom,
Yeah.
kind of the same thing. Um, my mom played the piano for a little while. She took lessons back when I was a kid, and I was taking lessons with my sister.
Hmm.
But I mean, starting a family band, how cool is that? That's almost like secretly everybody's wish when they're growing up, and then you kind of grow out of that phase. You're like, maybe I should start a band with my friends instead. So, where did you get that inspiration from to kind of be a musician? Did it stem from more so your mom?
Yeah, I mean, I think my mom was more proactive in like earlier on was more proactive in like making sure that if when I said that I wanted to try violin, making sure I had access to lessons,
Mm-hmm.
um and I guess stoking the flame, stoking the fire, and making and helping it kind of grow from there. But my dad is also, even though he doesn't play music himself, has always been like, he's been very interested and very good about like asking and supporting my my songwriting and my like solo career stuff, like in college and beyond, and earlier on, of course. Like he made sure I practiced my violin and did all that. Um, um, but yeah, my mom was the one that had the musical things, and she was in a couple bands like singing when I was young. A lot of like they call it I forget, they called it a folk dance band. It was particularly like Eastern European type music, so it was a lot of sounds that I think have subliminally shaped how I make music now, because they were like a lot of what I heard earlier on when I'd go and sit in the back of their practice and play with Legos or whatever it was, but like like Bulgarian folk songs and these things that have different different tones and different sounds from the music you hear a lot now. Um, yeah,
That kind of laid the inspiration for the direction you go now.
yeah, just always being exposed to
Mm-hmm.
music and a variety of music. My mom really loved classical music. That's what she played on the radio. And so I had a lot of exposure to that. And just like when you, as a young person, when you express interest in something, having a parent that says, yeah, follow up on that. Let me give you some options or give you space to do that. As opposed to, I mean, and very, very understandable things if you don't have like resources, if you're not, like, if you aren't born into a home of privilege, like I fortunately was, but like, saying like, there isn't time for that. That's not going to turn into something that you can do. There is enough money to go for that, which is very real, and parents have to say that all the time. But I was lucky enough to have the kind of parents and the privilege to follow up on those passions.
Yeah, having someone that believes in you, I think it's definitely beneficial. I mean, I don't want to say that it's like an end all be all, because there are people that, you know, only believe in themselves, and that's all kind of the support they have, and
Yeah.
they achieve whatever they're driving towards. But having someone that's in your corner saying, you can do this, like, might be hard, it's going to be a bumpy road, but you can do this. Like, this is within
Yeah.
your wheelhouse if you want it. Like, that's important, and that helps. Because sometimes, the path whether it's growing up or pursuing a passion, like, it gets a little rocky, and there are points where you stumble a little bit and you fall down, and having someone that's in your corner to help you get back up is, I mean, there's
Yeah.
no substitute for that if it's there.
Yeah, definitely. Who's your person? Or who are
Definitely,
your people?
definitely my family. My
Yeah.
family has always been incredibly supportive. They don't always understand my pursuits sometimes. Sometimes they're like, that's what, like, they thought this was going to be like a radio show. They're like, I don't know what a podcast is, but like, if you want to do it, go ahead and do it. But they're
Yeah.
always supportive, even if they don't see the vision, because sometimes it's a little out there. They are always, okay, what do we need to do? Like, how can we help? Where are we, like, my dad and my sister were the first two people on the podcast. Like,
Yeah.
we're sitting on a pool table with a ping pong top, and I got a couple, like, I had a couple of mics. I had like one camera, nothing else, and they were like, okay, let's do it. Like,
Yeah.
and my mom is, like, a religious listener to the show, um, and just like super supportive, just always not having like a negative aspect towards anything that I try to put my head to. I think that's,
Yeah.
you need that.
Yeah. Definitely. I think, yeah, particularly in creative pursuits,
Mm-hmm.
is very important, has been very important for me and for most people that are creative that I know.
Yeah, because there's no safety net with that. At least if you go get a job, okay, my bills can be paid. Like, I might hate my life, but at least everything, like, I'm not going to be homeless tomorrow, Whereas if you
Yeah.
go, it's not even necessarily just creative. It's something unstable, like starting a business or
Mm-hmm.
pursuing a passion. There's no safety net. Like, if you fall, it's gonna
It's gonna
hurt.
hurt by the time you
Yeah,
hit.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's
What's
just,
the craziest? What's the craziest pursuit that came to mind? Like you were saying that even when you had like some of your ideas and some of them were pretty crazy. What were you thinking of?
oh man, I've had some. This is definitely a crazy one. They were definitely like,
Okay.
what you're gonna do what? And then people are gonna watch this, and I was like, well, I mean, maybe eventually, but like, I don't think anybody's gonna watch it in the beginning. They're like, so why are you like, what are you trying to, like, just understanding the vision, right?
Right.
But I mean, I bred crickets and sold crickets for a while as like a
Okay.
business venture. I did the same with cockroaches. Like, I
Huh.
also bred rabbits. I've made duct tape wallets, and so, like, as a kid, obviously not as an
Sure.
adult. I don't think people would buy them from me now. But
Yeah.
I've just always I'm always doing something, which has
Yeah.
probably frustrated them a lot in life, but they've never said, "No, don't do this."
Yeah.
So in anything I've tried to do, I made and sold paracord bracelets for a little while. I had a little lawn mowing business for a little while. Like, try to keep I try to keep it moving in a way, I guess.
Yeah.
And they've just never said, "Oh, are you sure you?" They might have said, "Are you sure you want to do this?" But as soon as I say, "Yeah, like, I think this will be good," they're like, "Okay,
Yeah.
what are we gonna do? How do we enact this and make it happen?"
Yeah. I think it maybe comes from a place of recognizing um like recognizing a theme among them of ambition or of creativity or of um yeah, kind of pursuit of something that you find interesting, that even if the action itself is not something that is understandable, like or sorry, even if the venture, the details of the venture is unimportant, the fact that you're going on the venture um, is admirable and worth supporting.
I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
I think people get too hung up on, I want to be here, so I'm going to do everything I can to get to this end point.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the important thing isn't so much where you end up, it's the path that you're taking. Because you might fork off at this turn and go off on this other direction, and you might take another branch and go over here, but you're still moving forward and you're progressing. It might not be where you thought, but it might be better. Like I never thought 10 years ago I wouldn't have thought I'd be doing a podcast, but God, I'm so happy I am. And I'm
Yeah.
sure well you might have seen the music thing coming because you started
10 years ago,
younger.
I did see the
Yeah.
music thing coming, but it was,
But I'm sure the path that you thought you would take isn't the one that you're on when you were
yeah,
that kid, right? And it's
yeah,
probably better. I think that it's incredibly important to just take a step back and say, okay, I have an idea of where this could go, but I'm going to be fluid enough to where if I start branching off, I'm just going to go with the branches and see. And as long as you're making steps in a general direction,
mm-hmm.
you're on the right path. We just get too
Yeah,
focused on that end goal, I think, sometimes.
yeah,
And it's easy to get trapped in that. Because what if something else happens that's better?
yeah. It's important to recognize unexpected opportunities, um, and even if they're even if they're distractions from what you're doing, if if they're pulling you strongly, maybe it's not a distraction that's going to take you away from your path. Maybe it's just a different fork on the path kind of a thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's all just I mean life is all about taking steps. As long as you're moving forward by whatever definition you take that as, you're making progress.
Yeah.
And as long as you're not my biggest thing is I don't want to be the same person tomorrow that I am today. I
Mm-hmm.
think we should always strive. And that doesn't mean, oh, I need to go, I need to be a multimillionaire by tomorrow. So I got to do everything I got to do today to get that. But just, it could be taking instrumental steps. I'm going to go hit the gym today so that I feel better and I'm a better person tomorrow. Or I'm going to try to eat a little healthier today so that my tomorrow looks a little brighter. Or I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to take 10 minutes and lock myself in my room and jam out to some tunes. Like whatever it is, just taking these instrumental steps to make you happy and to get you where you want to be. I
Yeah.
think that's important.
Making them conscious choices too.
Yes. Which sometimes it's hard. I'm sure there's days where you might not want to play music, or there's days where I don't want to sit down and edit for 3 hours. And you know what I mean? There are things that you don't want to do, but in the long term, they're gonna help you. And it's just
Yeah.
sometimes it's just getting over that barrier of okay, let's just do it.
Yeah, definitely. And you can make a conscious choice to give yourself like a self-care day of whatever that means to you, whether that's, making a good meal and going to the gym, or that could mean, for me sometimes it means doing nothing or reading a book for a while, and sometimes watching TV too, or listening to podcasts, like giving myself a rest day. But it's still, I identify what you're saying, is that's still a, if it's a conscious choice of saying, yeah, this is what I need right now, I'm going to do this, rather than like falling into the a haze of non-conscious, like watching TV or not, I'm going to, air quotes, not doing anything. We're always doing something, but if it's not a conscious choice, it doesn't feel like doing something to me.
Yeah. Not
And
scrolling Instagram for 2
numb
hours.
scrolling, yeah.
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 Because I mean, there's so many sinkholes for you to just fall into. And then you blink and it's like, okay, well, I just wasted the rest of my day. I guess I'll go to bed and try again tomorrow.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
don't know. I mean, I think finding passions is important. And that's why I think like your story resonates with me because I can tell you're passionate about your music. You're passionate about sound engineering, which is cool. I mean, there are these things that motivate you. And I think when you tell that to somebody, and that's why I think tying back into live shows, I think it's so powerful is because you feel that energy off that person. You can tell they're
Mhm.
passionate. And if they're not, you feel that too. And you're like, okay, well, maybe this is not the live show for me. Like, maybe I need to go check something else out. But when they are, and when they're into their music and they're up there and they're playing their heart out, you feel that. And it comes
Yeah.
across in recorded versions too, but there's something different about being there in person.
Mhm.
And I mean, even I watched, I'm going to butcher the name of your song. It was like All in My Head. Does that sound like something? Over in
Never
My
in my
Head?
dreams?
Never in My Dreams. All in My Head. Okay, close. I mean, a stretch. Never in My
Sure,
Dreams.
yeah, yeah, it's
That's
okay.
the live song that I heard. And within the first 30 seconds, I was like, oh, I got to get this guy on the podcast. I was like, oh,
Oh, cool.
this
Yeah, I
is
did wanna ask,
cool.
yeah, that's how you found me? You saw the
Yeah, Miles Cochran.
I was wondering if it was Miles.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
Miles was kind of singing your praises, saying you helped him with his EP, and I was like, oh, that's cool. And I Googled Bongo Boy Studio, and you have all your stuff linked, which is awesome. And I clicked your YouTube link, and that was the first video that popped up. And I was like, first 30 seconds, I was like, oh, I got to reach out to this guy. I got to talk to him. Because I mean, you could tell, like, that was a great song, but you were passionate about it. And it was live, which was cool. I mean,
Yeah,
obviously, I wasn't seeing it live, but I don't know. It was a cool song. And there was
yeah.
emotion in it. And I was like, oh, yeah, I'm going to reach out to this guy.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I'm really glad you did too.
Yeah,
And thanks, appreciate it.
I'm glad you came on it. I just can't say it enough, but like like talking about experiences and just talking with people is powerful.
Yeah. It seems like we're talking about like what is this podcast about, right? You're saying it was for, helping you, as a way for you to grow, kind of as we've been talking about moving forward. And it seems like, conversations with people who are passionate, like I don't know, that seems like a through line to me, at least from the couple that I've heard so far.
Oh,
I only
absolutely.
heard about the podcast 2 days ago here, so
I've wanted to get
I've
you.
got to go through the
Yeah.
back catalog. But talking with people who are truly passionate about what they do,
Well, because
and
if you talk to someone who's not, I mean, it's just not a fun conversation. I mean, we'd be sitting here and it'd be over in 10 minutes.
yeah,
Because there's nothing, when you talk to somebody about something they're passionate about, it's exciting and you get excited about it. Then you're both just on this realm, especially if it's something like music where like, I don't understand how to make music. Like, I don't understand the process. I don't know how to write a song. I don't know anything about swing dancing. But in talking to you about it, like I'm excited about
you
it
got
because
excited about it now.
you're excited about it. I'm almost thinking like, man, should I check out swing dancing? Like, is this something I need to look into?
Absolutely, you should.
I cannot dance. Otherwise, I
That's why
might.
you take a
I
class.
know, but
I don't. If you can walk, you
uh,
can dance.
see, people say that, and then you start dancing. They're like, maybe you should stick to walking. Like, maybe that's some people walk, some people dance.
Let me rephrase. If you can walk and you have a sense of rhythm, which if you played music, you have some sense of rhythm. I am entirely of the mind that you could probably learn how to dance.
Yeah,
Whether swing is your dance, I can't speak to that. Maybe you'd have a different dance that would speak to you more, but I think it's possible.
yeah. Maybe that'll be my next project. So I'll pick up dancing, maybe like salsa or something,
Yeah.
just to go balls to the wall. Um, but no, that's like, I mean, talking to someone that they're passionate about. That's
Yeah.
that's I take an unexplainable amount of pleasure in doing that. Just sitting, like I could listen to someone talk about something that they love for hours and feel like no time passed.
Yeah.
Because you pull something from that. And talking to you and like talking to the people who are motivated and driven, it makes me motivated.
Yeah.
Like you pull something from that. It's like, okay, now I got to work harder. I got to go, you know, work on my editing skills or go work on, trying to improve myself a little bit harder. Like you get motivated. It's almost like watching those motivational videos on YouTube, how
Yeah.
they spark something inside of you. I get that from talking to
Except you
people
can
too.
interact and ask
Exactly, which is so
questions.
much better.
Yeah.
And you don't really get to talk to people like this anymore. I mean, you do with your friends. You get to have depth and challenge each other's ideas and do all these things, but if we just bumped into each other on the street and started talking, we're not gonna go into this. I'm not gonna know you do swing dancing. I'm not gonna know how passionate you are about your music. You miss all that. And this is I think this was like a conduit for expressing that to people and
Yeah.
to getting that expressed to me in a weird way. I think
Yeah.
that's why like this is my music. I can't sing, I can't, write songs or create these masterpieces, but I could do this. And
Mhm.
this is enough for me. At least for now until I try swing dancing and then who knows. I might have to maybe I'll start a swing dancing YouTube channel and just
There we go.
go off.
There we go. I like it.
All right, well man, we just did an hour and a half. We
Oh,
just put
man.
in some
Yeah.
time.
Time
Do
flies then.
you have anything you want to plug? Your band, your solo stuff?
Yeah, sure. That's a good idea. Thank you. Yeah. You can find me as a solo artist. My name's Dominic Romano. You can find me on social media at Dominic Romano Music or on your favorite streaming site. Yeah, if you're interested in recording or just want to talk to me about what it's like to be an engineer and producer a little bit more, if you haven't heard enough already, you can find the studio I work at, bongoboystudio.com. And my band, The Gatehouse Well. We talked about that too. Yeah. thegatehousewell.com is our website, and you can find us on streaming and social media at The Gatehouse Well as well.
And swing dance and arcade if anybody is
And swing
interested.
dance and arcada. Check out Redwood Racks, or Redwood Rocks, or Redwood RAKS is a confusing title, but that
Okay.
is the dance studio that has a bunch of different types of social dancing and partner dancing. Swing is Monday nights, but they've got salsa and they've got fusion and they've got a bunch of different things that you can check out.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Well, thanks so much for coming on, man. Really had a blast sitting here and talking with you. That I think, you
it's been
know,
such a pleasure to meet you,
yeah,
Nick.
it was a
Appreciate
lot
it.
of fun, man. Really. Thank you.
Thanks
Thanks,
for having
guys.
me.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure.